The night my husband threw me and my children out of our own home, I thought the worst pain was the cold wind hitting our faces as we stood outside with our bags. But the real pain? It was seeing another woman sitting comfortably in my living room, drinking tea from my favorite cup, like she had always belonged there. That night, my children were crying. My marriage was over, and the man I once loved slammed the door in our faces without even looking back. What he didn't know was that the woman he tried to destroy that night would rise again in a way he could never imagine, and one day he would beg for forgiveness. My name is Amaka, and for 11 years I believed my husband Chuka loved me. We built our life from nothing in our village. When we got married, we had only a small room and big dreams. Together, we worked hard. I sold food at the market. He worked as a mechanic. Slowly, life became better. We built a modest house. We had 2 beautiful children. To outsiders, we looked like a strong family. But behind the smiles, something was already changing. Chuka started coming home late. At first, he blamed work, then meetings with friends, then business opportunities. His phone was always locked. Whenever I asked questions, he became angry. But I never imagined the truth would hit me the way it did. One evening, he told me we needed to talk. But when I entered the living room, I saw a young woman sitting on the sofa. She looked confident, comfortable, almost like she already belonged there. I stood there confused. "Chuka, who is she?" I asked quietly. My husband didn't even hesitate. "This is Ifeoma," he said. Then he added the words that destroyed everything. "She's going to be living here now." At first, I laughed nervously. I thought it was some kind of joke. But then he stood up, walked to the door, and opened it. "Take your children and go stay with your family," he said coldly. "This house is no longer your place." My heart stopped. "Chuka, this is our home," I whispered. But his face had no emotion. "I've moved on," he said. Within an hour, my bags and the children's clothes were outside. Neighbors were watching from their windows. My children were crying and asking questions I couldn't answer. And the woman who had taken my place, she stood at the doorway behind him, smiling. That night, we slept on the floor of my sister's house. I cried silently so my children wouldn't hear me, because the truth was, I felt like my life had completely ended. The months that followed were painful. I had no money, no home of my own, only my children and the determination not to let them suffer. So I worked harder than I ever had before. I started selling clothes at the market. Then I began ordering fabrics from the city. Slowly, my small business started growing. Year after year, things changed. My children returned to school. We moved into our own small apartment. And for the first time in years, 5 years later, my life looked completely different. My business had grown into a successful store. My children were healthy and happy. Then, one afternoon while leaving the market, I saw someone standing across the street. It was Chuka, but he looked nothing like the proud man who threw us out years ago. His clothes were old, his shoulders were heavy, and the woman he chose over his family, she was nowhere to be seen. I started feeling strong again. He walked toward me slowly. "Amaka, I heard your business is doing well," he said quietly. I simply nodded. Then he looked down and said something I never expected. "Ifeoma left 2 years ago. She took everything I had." His voice trembled. I made the biggest mistake of my life. For a moment, memories flooded my mind. The slammed door, my children crying, the humiliation of being thrown out of my own home. But instead of anger, I felt peace. Because the truth was, the man who once had the power to break my heart no longer had any power over my life. I looked at him calmly and said, "Sometimes the worst thing someone does to you becomes the best thing that ever happened to you." Then I walked away, not as the broken woman he once abandoned, but as the strong woman who rebuilt everything from nothing, and that he could never take from me again.